Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Deep Dive, powered by Inside Texas. If you're not a member of Inside Texas, you're missing out on the best Longhorn conversation on the internets. Ian, what's going on, man? What do folks need to do with regards to this channel? Can you help them out?
They need to like all the videos that they watch. Make sure that the thumbs up is dark and the thumbs down is not shaded, like your old Scantron test. And then you need to subscribe to the channel. All that does is make it come up in your algorithm when we have new videos, and it gives us a boost.
That's exactly right. Ian handled that deftly and expertly. And we're going to try to handle deftly and expertly all the questions that you were submitted on Inside Texas. So we're still going through questions. We got, I think, like 50 or 60 of them. And we're going to endeavor to go through them and give you the best possible answers that we can. So, Ian, are you ready to do it?
Let's do it. I think we're almost done, right?
Let's tackle it. All right. Texas has had to start their backup quarterback in each of the last few seasons. If you're building an offensive game plan around what Trey Owens does well, what does that look like?
Do you remember the Malik Murphy offense?
Yes, I do.
Kansas State and BYU. I think it looks like that. I think it looks like a lot of running, a lot of outside free release throws, a couple shots schemed up down the field, and you ask him to make as few decisions and as few reads and as few throws as possible.
And when you say running to specify, you mean running backs running?
Yes. Not Trey.
Not Trey.
Right.
Yeah, so one thing we've learned, and one thing I will lament the death of the spring game, is that we learned from last year's spring game that Trey Owens isn't scared to throw the ball. He will let it go, and he'll let it go into tight spaces. And I think he's probably a better natural thrower than I expected, at least from what I saw there. Also, he's a big frame guy, big guy. He's not Malik Murphy filled out, but he's a big, tall guy, and he's got an arm, and he's not scared to sling it down the field. So I think that's the offense. I think Ian's exactly right. I think you're going to run the ball, and you're going to chunk it deep. And Trey isn't scared to let it fly.
The other way, Sark is much smarter about that. Like Mac Brown would do the classic bull crap. We're going to run the ball on first down. We're going to run the ball on second down. We're going to protect him. And then it'd be 3rd and 8.
And then you throw a screen.
Or a screen, or you'd ask him to do something real, and it would blow up, and they'd get intercepted or sacked, fumble stripped. Sark goes the other way. He's like, I'm going to protect my young quarterback by dialing up some shots.
Early and often, get them to back off, and then we're handing it off from there. 100%.
As much as possible.
Hope that answers your question. Let's go to the next question. Realistically, what's the number one piece Texas can add in the spring portal to guarantee success for the offense in Arch's first season? So, of course, it's dependent upon availability. The truth is, we want the best possible player at several positions, potentially, right? However, if we say there's a player that's a 9 out of 10 in terms of ability level, and we can assign it to any position, what position will you assign it to the offense to maximize and have the greatest production increase?
Man, my first thought is actually to get a tight end and make sure that room doesn't crater this season. So it'd be like an insurance buy, a preventative measure. That's not chasing upside, though. We don't want the season to rest on Jordan Washington's improvement in health. Maybe it does. Maybe they can get by without. So what's your first thought?
My first thought was tight end in terms of floor.
Okay.
My thought for ceiling would be another receiver. And you just spread the field and let it go. I think both are correct answers, in my opinion. What do you think? Maybe an offensive lineman.
Not a running back?
If the coaches are convinced that they're okay, I still think we need to add a running back. But I'm going to say that's not my number one priority. If the coaches really do think they can get through with what we've currently got on the roster, I guess I have to trust them.
If they added another 9 out of 10 receiver outside, then I would probably be in that camp too.
Yeah.
But fine. Gibson and Baxter are going to be decent. Weisner ran for 1,000 last year. We're going to be fine. So we both said tight end, basically. Tight end for floor, outside receiver for ceiling.
Not quarterback.
Not quarterback. A right tackle would be fine, but I'm not really that worried about that.
Yeah, I actually think that we'll get less pressure on Arch and to get the dogs called off us more by having more threats, whether it's a tight end, running back, or wide receiver. But I have a preference probably for tight end or wide receiver.
Unless it's Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they on the schedule? They are.
And assuming they successfully replace all these guys, which they probably will.
All right, next question. Would it make nice tie-in. Would it make sense for Texas to bid high for the best possible outside receiver available in the spring portal, both to improve Texas's passing game and to block OU from getting a quality receiver, or A&M, or Georgia?
Yeah, the original version of this question, which I edited down for space, noted that they paid homage to the fact that I've identified outside receiver as a potential Achilles heel for Oklahoma in particular. But I believe that the obstacle in Oklahoma's way is not Texas. It's their own fund. In fact, earlier today, Pete Nakos of On3 reported that Mateer's NIL contract is worth $3 million.
Yep.
Is that for 1 year, I assume? I think that it's over 2 years, says Texas Homer in the comments. That's 1.5 a year. I think that move is the reason why their receiving room is filled with FCS guys, is because they had to spend it all on him to keep him from going to Miami or North Carolina.
Yeah, I tell you this spring portal is going to be wild. So April 16th through April 25th, mark it on your calendars, because the December portal, or it was the January portal, right? Both. It wasn't as active as people thought it would be. People did a good job of defending and retaining players. There was some movement of good players. And for example, the aforementioned John Mateer at the time was the best available quarterback that was available.
Yeah.
So OU did a good job there. I mean, they had to get that guy. However, there was not a huge movement of talent. And part of that was also because there weren't any big high profile firings at big schools, which of course opens up a 30-day window. So I think this spring, if there are people that enter in, you're going to see some wild bidding wars, and they're going to be not regional, but national in nature.
Yeah. And I do not think OU is going to fare well in that.
You know, honestly, I've said it before. Any team in FBS that decides they want a player can go get that player.
They just yeah. So Brent Venables
going to destroy a lot of other stuff in their roster building, but that's the reality is Texas Tech can outbid Texas for an individual player. That's just a fact.
So the thing though is that Venables might have done that because he's in a make or break year.
Yep.
But they basically just gave him a boss who's in charge of that for him.
Who might actually say, "No, we're going to save that powder."
Yes, Jim Nagy is probably going to make sure that doesn't happen. So,
I think that's a very valid point, and I think that guy might be more master than servant than people think.
Oh yeah, I made a joke immediately when that happened. It was like, Brent Venables, I really want this high-profile safety transfer, and Nagy being, you have a perfectly good safety at home, Brent.
That's pretty funny, man. All right, next question. I'm choked up.
I get it.
Choked up at my excitement.
Will TJ Baxter be a difference maker when he comes back, or just a big, strong guy that used to be a step quicker? Oof. I hope not.
We don't know.
But maybe.
We don't know. Do you have a guess on this, Ian?
I don't know. I was I was actually talking to Connor about this morning, and I was saying that it bothers me that it feels like so much of his development is repetition based, running lower, seeing things, and I don't know how much you can do that in rehab, on a bike, in the weight room, watching film, staring at a coach talking on a whiteboard. The lack of reps is troubling because he not only needs to get his movement back, which is hard to know until you've tested yourself on the field, but he's also got to get that back and different than it was before so that he can run lower and stay healthier. And that feels like a difficult, maybe 2026 will be the better indicator even.
I have a sneaking suspicion on that. And this guy's probably won't see live reps till August and potentially mid-August. So it's hard to know. And we just don't know what his healing factors are, how successful the rehab was, confidence level, all those different things. I will say that the track record recovering on knees is better than like Achilles with Christian Clark, stuff like that, people regaining their dynamism. But CJ Baxter shredded his knee. Like it wasn't just a conventional ACL tear. So that's another factor as well. And speaking of NIL, Ian, how often and how much NIL can you devote to a running back who doesn't really play full seasons or if much at all? So if we're not adjusting that, that's a drag on your roster building.
This is a sad question. We're all rooting for Baxter to have a great year.
Yes.
I hope he is able to bounce back good. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, we're discussing some of the harsher financial realities of college football, which we never had to do before. There's some harsh and hard financial realities in the real world that we all deal with. And that's buying a house. It's the biggest financial decision any of us will ever make. And you need the best possible team in your corner. The one-man gang, the Vince Young of mortgages that you need when it's the Rose Bowl, the national titles on the line, is this guy, Gabe Winslow. 832-557-1095. Over 20 years in the industry. He's got a law degree. He's owned a title company. He knows every single aspect of this, and he can solve problems, not just as your mortgage guy. That's the very least of what he does. He can partner with your realtor. He can partner with your lender. He can partner with, of course, your title people and make sure everything goes smoothly. Here's the truth about real estate. There's a lot of people involved in the process. One incompetent person can destroy everything. So what you need are super competent people at your other spots who can compensate for that and make sure that things get shepherded through. Gabe is that guy. Give him a call, 832-557-1095. Tell him that the author of Flyover Football sent you, and he'll give you extra good treatment. That's Ian Boyd, if you're not aware. You can buy that book on Amazon.
Please do.
All right. Why is no one talking about the needs for a kicker in the portal? I don't know. Do we need a kicker? Do we have kicker insecurity last year?
Yeah. Last year, I wrote an article before the season where I was like, hey, punter, they should really get a punter in the portal. And they had no interest in doing so. We didn't talk about it. No one talked about it because you talked about punters. Yep. And it was a problem. It was a big problem. And in this window, they went and they got a punter from Utah, Bowmeister, right? So hopefully you've been looking while I've been talking to see if Sideshow Burt has another year of eligibility or not.
He does?
He does. Okay, so it's Sideshow Burt again, or who's the other one?
Stone?
Will Stone, is that right?
Is it? I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't at the moment.
It's Will Stone, the producer confirms.
There we go.
Regents. We have not watched Will Stone kick field goals, have we? They promoted him.
Practice.
They theoretically promoted him for that against Ohio State and then didn't attempt a single field goal, mostly due to game context.
Yeah, and also, I wrote an article when Auburn was really struggling, and I just said, hey, we can't kick it. like we need to go for it. It's where we need to play for touchdowns. And also that will address some of our red zone issues, because if you're at the opponent 20, start trying to throw it in the end zone.
Yeah.
You know, the last place, and ironically, I was like, the last place we want to be is on Ohio State's 2-yard line, goal to go. We want to be on the 18 and surprise them by throwing it in, right? And that proved prophetic, unfortunately. But yes, had we attempted field goals in that game, Will Stone would have been the kicker. So I think that is the answer for you. You know, if there's an elite kicker available in the portal who's a 1-year guy, maybe we'd be interested. But if we like what we've seen from Will Stone, or Bert Auburn has a renaissance, look, the guy who kicked really well for us 2 years ago kicked really poorly a year ago. So I'm not sure what his ability level or what's set in stone or what degree this is pure psychology he needs to recover. But I would say that it's something the coaches feel that they at least have a floor where they feel adequate with Stone. And I think that's probably the answer. What do you think, Boyd? Anything you want to add to that?
I was going to say, you if they just knew what they were going to get.
Yeah.
Like, we have to get to the 30 for this guy to be good, but he'll be good. That would be better, or the 25.
Yeah, if you'll just show, hey, I'm not hitting anything 40 plus.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hit everything 39-yard line inside of that. And I'm going to hit all the extra points, then we can manage around that, as you said. And in fact, that philosophy might yield a higher point score. Right. I mean, one of the things that is underrated, because people really hate going for it and failing when you could have gotten the points.
Yeah.
The truth is, you want to go for it and fail a little bit rather than take all these automatic field goals. I always love the idea that college field goals are automatic when they're clearly not. But the stats, the advanced stats over time show that you should be going for it more than kicking in the red zone.
Now, my only hesitation is that we now have a college football playoff where you have to beat 4 good teams in a row.
And you're probably going to need a field goal.
And having that ability to just, if we can just cross midfield, we have a chance to steal this game. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's a luxury, but it is Texas. Like, why can't we have luxuries at Texas, if anything? So I don't know. I don't think this is going to be a huge deal this year, but it would be nice if.
Clip that, Connor. We're going to lose to Georgia in the final 3 seconds on a missed field goal, and we're going to run this clip. And make.
He's already been tasked with clipping something from me earlier where I asked what Zen is and how it works and why people use it.
Is it just nicotine?
Yeah, it's like a nicotine thing you stick in your lip.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really know what Zen was either.
Oh, yeah, you should see the clip then, and you'll have a better idea.
All right. Well, I need to obviously go take nicotine patches. All right. How much NIL support has men's basketball received? Is past funding to blame for poor roster management? Can Rodney Terry identify quality transfers but lacks NIL funds, or is he fundamentally failed in roster management? I can take a crack at this first if you want, Ian.
Let me say, I know less here than you do. So let me tell you what I know. I know that they signed one and done type 5-star talents each of the last 2 years, right? Dylan Mitchell last year, and then Trey Johnson this year. And even if you wanted to say like, well, maybe they had the money for these 5 stars, but not for the rest of the roster, those 5 stars do not come cheap. So just on the surface, there's very little that would suggest, oh, this guy's just languishing without any money to help him build a roster.
Yeah, so I'll say there's a few levels to this. One, Rodney Terry did a poor job building out the roster, irrespective of NIL. He did. We've got some other problems fundamental to his coaching tenure, which we don't need to get into, but there's some issues, but roster construction is arguably the number one issue. He didn't really understand how to fit the pieces. Number 2, maybe Ian's argument is that he overspent on one amazing talent, which this guy is, but to the detriment of his supporting cast and building a better out overall roster, right? I think it's maybe a little bit of both, but I would say more not understanding how to construct the roster, because the cost of player X at a certain level is the same. The question is the kind of position and their kind of skill set that you emphasize getting.
Yeah, the last two guys he's gotten are both NBA wings.
Yeah.
Which are notoriously useless in college. Like, not useless, but the two-way wing is like the apex predator of the NBA.
Yeah.
And in college basketball, they just do not matter that much because your guards dominate the ball and defenses pack the paint in zone defense, and the three-point line is closer.
Yeah, you're thinking of like the classic slashy wing too, right? Not the guy who drills 6 threes.
Yeah, like the point forward wing that you give him the ball and you like run offense through him routinely.
Yep.
Everybody in the NBA desperately wants that guy at the 2 or the 3 or even the 4. And in college, it's not as valuable, especially, and you see those guys get wasted all the freaking time. Yes. They came in with like some freshman point guard who also thinks he's the guy, you know?
Well, and the paucity of true point guards in college basketball is interesting. Everyone's a combo guard. And if you're a combo guard, that basically says you're not a great shooter and you're not a great enough ball handler and creator to be a true point. So
that's true in the NBA too, but those guys can shoot. And so they get out of the way for the wing so he can do his thing.
That's right. Broadly speaking, to answer the question, he had NIL support, but some of that NIL support is also organic. And it's reflective of people's excitement level for the basketball program. So you'd love for people to really give when things are bad, right? But that's not really human psychology. The truth is, Texas fans and big givers are more likely to give when we're being successful. And I think people look and they say, you know what, I could spend on NIL, and I don't think Rodney Terry is going to maximize. And I think that played a role. So I don't think people were withholding in the sense of like, let's let him fail. I think it was more like, hey, this isn't a very good product. I'm not really interested in watching it or supporting it. And I know basketball is my number 2 sport for Texas. And I know an alarming number of people like me who have just sort of checked out. Yep. And that's the reality. And that's unfortunate, but I've penned many articles and offered many opinions that you don't hire the interim. And there's a lot of people that argue with me about it, and we'll just file this one in the L column for you.
That one was I hated that. It was a slow moving train wreck.
Once you let media, opinion, and optics get involved, you're doomed. You're done.
I was like, for me, I didn't even enjoy the run. Like a bunch of people enjoyed the run, but I was like, every game I was like,
because you were worried about what it meant.
I was like, the whole roster are like 22, 23, 24-year-olds using their COVID exemptions that have been molded over 2 off seasons by Chris Beard together.
Yep.
Like, of course they're going to make a deep run. That doesn't tell you anything about this guy.
Well, and you read people in the media attributing the run to Terry, and it's like, oh my God. Like,
it was tough.
By the way, go rewatch the Miami Texas game that would have sent us to the Final Four.
You got spanked, right?
Not great coaching. All right. Any more questions here? Why is it not called the Podlington or maybe Podlington? I mean, exactly. That's what I've argued for. I guess we have a democracy, and the producer said no, and Ian said no. So 2-1, I lost. Ian, defend yourself.
I liked the deep dive with Batman and Robin. But
you think you're Batman, and that's the inherent issue.
One of these pods we should come in with like a Batman and Robin mask.
100%. But I don't know where you're going to find a Robin costume.
We just both come in with a Batman mask.
Then we just argue.
What were you doing? You were supposed to.
I'm Christian Bale Batman, and you're Michael Keaton Batman, and we just practice husky voices arguing with each other.
Pretty good cop. Because
Robin evolved later in the DC comics into a character called Nightwing that was like cooler because Robin was kind of hokey.
Not going to work.
But Nightwing was cool and he had a cool outfit and he was
I'm not going to do
more vigilante than even Batman. He beat the crap out of people. I'm just saying, man, there's something you can aspire to. All right. Any more questions? I guess the question about the Punic Wars didn't make the cut. We'll have to cover that next time. But for Ian Boyd, I am Paul Wadlington saying, please smash and subscribe. We appreciate you, and we'll all see you at Inside Texas.
Smash the like button in particular.
No, we want people to smash just in general.
Great. Go for it.
This has been the Deep Dive. Thanks.